Hey everyone. Hope everyone is having a phenomenal Monday. And I am really excited to be here today with all of you. Um, it has been quite a while since I've been a college freshman, so I'm not the best person to speak here today. But the good news is that I brought along with me uh, four amazing people who have graduated within the last year and a half. And all of them have a lot more great advice for you about how to be how to successfully navigate your transition to college. We have a lot to share with you, and also we look forward to answering all of your questions. So put them in the Q&A box when you are ready, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can. I'm going to start sharing my screen so that everyone can follow along. All right, so as Connie mentioned, this session is titled What I Learned as a College Freshman, and it's really a panel discussion to help you best understand what you can do as a freshman during your transition to college to be successful. And all of us who are presenting today work for the Partnership for Los Angeles Schools, which is a school management organization. We manage Los Angeles Unified School Districts in Watts, Boyle Heights, and South Los Angeles. And all five of us work on the college success team. So our job around the clock is helping students, kindergarten through 12th grade, manage the transition to college. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Laura to introduce herself, tell you a little bit about where she went to school and some of the experience she had.
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you for tuning in with us at 6 p.m. My name is Laura Gomez, as Carlo mentioned, and I attended the University of California, Riverside, and I majored in sociology with a minor in Chicano studies. And something that I really loved and enjoyed about my school was just the green, like naturey environment, like trees everywhere, like just stepping onto campus and like having a fresh breath of like fresh air, and really love like the botanical garden. So that was something that I really enjoyed and I didn't have when I was back home. Thank you, and I'll pass it along to Lila.
Hi everyone, my name is Lila Gomez. I also went to the University of California, Riverside, and one of my favorite things was just meeting so many new people and making so many new friends. And now I'll pass it over to Cindy.
Hi everyone, my name is Cindy Montoya and I graduated from UCLA this year and I majored in political science with minors in Chicano studies and education studies. And one of my favorite things from UCLA was its location, and I feel like the fact that there was always something going on campus. So I think the hype that UCLA gets is the fact that there's always like sports events going on. There's celebrities walking around on campus and famous athletes come to practice. And if you ever got tired of being like in the bubble of UCLA, you could always take a bus and go visit the beach. So I think there's just a lot of chances to have fun and try new experiences while you're there. And I'll pass it on to Chantel.
Hi guys, my name is Chantal Padilla and I graduated from the University of Southern California in May 2019, and I majored in biology and minored in nonprofits and philanthropy. And one of my favorite parts about USC would have to be the community and spirit of the students, especially on football game days. It's like the campus comes to life and there's just so much pride and like joy in going to USC. And similar to Cindy, there was always something going on. So if you got bored, you could always be like, oh, I want to go visit this club, or I want to do this free event. So it's always lively and there's never a dull moment. And I'll pass it back to Carlo now.
Thank you. Wow, incredible experiences. My name is Carlos Silbiger. As I mentioned at the beginning, for those who are new, I have been out of college for a bit longer than everyone else on the panel. But I did go and get my undergraduate degree at Boston University, this beautiful campus you're seeing behind me. If you haven't had a chance to go visit Boston, now's not the greatest time to do it, but it is an amazing city to go to college in. And I absolutely adored it there. I actually got 2 degrees, one in music and one in political science education. And then went on to other schools after that. And very excited to be with you all today. All right, so this is not just about us all reminiscing of about our fun experiences. We have a goal for our hour together, and that is to share with you a few very important tools that all of us know are going to help you make the transition from high school to college. And so I'm going to share some information, and then I'm going to pass it around and ask all of the rest of the panel, my colleagues, to share some of their experiences that hopefully will give you some really concrete tips on how to make the transition from high school to college successfully. And so let's start with the research, because this is important, okay? The research says that there are 3 major benchmarks in getting from where you are right now to your graduation day. That beautiful picture that everyone just saw of each of the 5 of us with our caps and gowns and loved ones, that takes 3 important steps to get there. The first one is making it from high school to college. That's called matriculation. If you make it to your first day of freshman year, you've already done better than most. And unfortunately, there's a lot that happens between now and next fall. And so getting to that first day of freshman year is super important. The second benchmark is making it to the first day of sophomore year. The transition to college is tough for some people. And so some people don't make it through their first year. And so that's called persistence, and we're going to be focused there as well. The last one is making it to the end, making it to graduation, completing all your classes. But I'm going to be honest with everyone here, which is that if you get the first 2 done, the third one's actually relatively easy. If you can make it through to your first day of college and then make it through your first year of college to the first year of your sophomore year, most people at that point actually do make it to graduation. But there are many schools where the graduation rate is under 50%. And so we got a lot of work to do, and we got a lot of things to share with you to hopefully make sure that you make it there and get that diploma. So the first important thing is we want you to actually become accustomed to your new environment and feel like you're a place where you can actually be successful. And so a couple things that we suggest is take advantage of your orientation. If your college offers an orientation, that gives you an opportunity to meet new classmates, to register for classes, to gain some advice from current students, to tour the campus, to feel really comfortable before your first day. And honestly, it makes it real when you get there and do that orientation. This year, of course, it's most likely to be on virtual orientation, but it doesn't matter, still worth it. And our second advice is to participate in any first-year programming that your college offers. Anything they offer you, before you even hear it, you should say yes. Yes, I'll do this. Yes, I'll do that. Peer mentorship, welcome week, residential community programs, anything at all that they have for first-year students, take advantage. And that way you'll get the most out. So with that in mind, I'm going to ask first Lila, and we'll make our way around to share some of their own experiences with these particular environmental programming suggestions.
Hi, yes. So I definitely agree. Any first year communities that you are able to join, you definitely should, because you are surrounded by other first years, so you get to make friends that way. And also the teachers or whoever is leading that class will be able to help you. I remember when I was in my first year community, we all registered for classes together. We all had to sign up to meet with our academic advisor. We all had to visit like a writing center or any place where we could get free resources. So it was super useful for getting accustomed into campus as a freshman.
Great. How about you, Cindy?
Yeah, so I think during my first year, I do remember only reaching out to on-campus resources that were built specifically for low-income, first-generation minority students, because I knew in those institutions that the folks who would be able to help me out were going to look like me. So that's how I was able to find Mecha, and I feel like a lot of high schools offer Mecha as a club, and Mecha it exists across a lot of networks throughout California. And that's how I found that they also offer services like peer advising. So I was set up with the peer advisor, and she helped me out with picking up my GE classes, deciding my major. She taught me how to drop a class, and that she basically also set me up to apply to other programs that had a very similar program. And offers free tutorship that were also exclusively for low-income minority students. And that's how I was really able to get through my first year academically, at least.
Thanks so much, Chantel. What did you find?
Yeah, so I actually had two first years because I attended Colorado State University for my first year, and then I transferred to USC. But for for my two first years, one of the most valuable experiences was orientation. So it was required at both of my schools, and it's just really helpful. Similar to what Lila said, you'll like take a tour during orientation to get more familiarized with the campus, but then you'll also be able to ask the upperclassmen any tips they may have on starting or, where these classes are. But one of the most valuable experiences from orientation is signing up for classes, because the registration system can be a little overwhelming. So having your advisor there giving you advice on which classes are difficult or what kind of combination would work the best for you and your academic plan, it's really helpful. And then another first year thing that I really liked is having an involvement fair, and this usually happens like during the first week of school, and it might look different for your coming years, but I highly encourage it because you get to see the campus come to life and you get a little taste of what's at your school and the different communities that you can join throughout your time at the school.
Fantastic. How about you, Laura?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everybody that sharing that attending orientation is really important, because for me, that's where we had our involvement fair, and I really got to know a peer mentorship program that I was really interested in. And in the long run, I got involved and became a mentor my first 2 years. And I was paired with a upperclassman, so a junior or a senior. And they really taught me around like school. They taught me how to add classes, drop classes, really giving me that tour of campus that maybe I wasn't gonna know as a first-time freshman, really motivating me even later on for myself to become a mentor myself. So mentoring freshmen. So getting involved is really important when you want to get comfortable in your new environment, especially when we're first-time freshmen, first-generation students. Another thing that I really agree with is attending residential events. Those are really important, because that really makes or breaks like you finding friends and really just getting to know the people around you. And something that I think was valuable from that was, of course, you get to meet new people, and also college students really love that, like free stuff and like free food. So really, besides making community, you also get to get involved and get free things.
Great. Thank you all. I saw a couple of questions come in, but there was one specific about MECHA. And I wonder, I think Cindy, you were the one who brought that up. Could you just give a little bit more information for those who might be interested in that?
Yeah, of course. So Mecha is more so a club. I could go into the whole history of Mecha. They have a very long history and how they came to be and how they got established. But they basically start off as a club, and it is very similar to EOP, I think, because they offer student services to ensure student retention and to make sure that students are on track academically and socially, and that specifically that low-income Latino students are being supported throughout their 4 years in college. And I think the only difference between EOP and MECHA is that EOP is a CSU program, so through the actual CSU system, and MECHA is student-led. So it's actually students at the college who organize and support other fellow students.
Great, fantastic. So what I'm hearing across the board here is if your college offers it, you might as well take advantage. It's free, it's open to everyone. Best case scenario, you meet a bunch of new people and get some help. Worst case scenario, you waste a couple hours of your time. But most likely, it sounds like a lot of people on the panel found great value in all of the orientation and first year programming offered. So keep a lookout for that as it's coming. All right, the next thing we want to talk about is how we can take advantage of our new home. Because remember, college isn't just a place to go to school and get your learn and take classes. It's also your home. It's where you're going to be for the next 4, 5, 6 years. And so we have to we have to think a little bit about how it is that we can take advantage of everything that's going to be going on at campus and really make it feel like a home where you can get everything out of it. So we've got lots of ideas. One of them is going to office hours so that you can work with your faculty, learn about your professors, get a hold of them. Another one is get involved in social things like athletics, Greek life, volunteering, cultural clubs. Another one is working on campus, maybe being a tour guide or work study, working in the bookstore, getting a job, helping with research. Another one is doing more academic preparation and involvement, which of course means attending classes and completing assignments, but also getting to know the people, your classmates and others there. And as you can see in the bottom, there are so many benefits to really thinking about your university as a home. You build a community, you make friends, you feel like you belong there, you don't feel as homesick, you become more familiar with the campus and take advantage of it. And I think, again, what I'm getting from all of this is the importance of just thinking about all the ways that you can be connected with your college. So it's more than just a place that you go to class every day or a couple times a week. So with that in mind, let's hear some advice from folks on the panel. And Cindy, you want to go first this time?
Yeah, so I guess focused on the social aspect, I think this was already mentioned, but I also took advantage of the first week, like it's like an activities fair that your college is going to set up, and it may look different this year because it will be virtual. But basically, at the activity fair, each club is going to be present there, and they're going to be handing out flyers and trying to get more people to join their clubs. And that's how I found a lot of the extracurricular things that shaped my social life at UCLA. And that's really where I met most of my friends because we were in the same clubs, we had the same interests. And it's truly what kept me happy during college, and it kept me sane. But it's also what basically allowed me to gain leadership positions within the clubs that I joined. And that's how I got like professional experience through. And so really, you know, if you get the chance to join those first week's activities fairs, if anything catches your eye, go to their meetings, and you'll get to see what's a good fit for you.
Great. Chantal, how about you?
Yeah, so just to continue off of the social aspect, one of the main activities that I was involved in during my time at USC was a club called Troy Philippines, and it was a Filipino cultural club. And I made most of my close friends through that club as well. And like Cindy said, extracurriculars really provide you with a way to develop your professional skills and gain leadership positions. And like these clubs also give you the chance to find new interests that you never knew you had. For me, it was finding my way to the education sector and figuring out what I really wanted to do with my life. And another, and like a little side note on that, whenever schools do go back and when they have activity fairs, it's a good opportunity to visit clubs and get a lot of free food during that week. That's a really good tip. And then another activity that I was involved with was work study. And I saw that someone in Q&A asked about money. So work study is a form of financial aid, and it's just like jobs for students who are more low income or have a certain percent of financial need. And it was really valuable because these types of jobs understand that you're a student, so they have more flexible hours and their understanding of when you can and can't work. But it's also a really good way to develop your professional experience while also making money to support your studies or whatever costs you may have coming.
That is a good tip. Food actually sounds really good right now as we're getting into the dinner hour. Okay, Laura, how about you?
Yeah, for me, going off of what Chantal just mentioned about work study, that really, for me, it made me feel like a part of my community. Even though I was new to the city of Riverside, I got to become a tutor or mentor for after school. And really, this made me feel like a part of the Riverside community because back home, I was really involved with volunteering and just being able to foster, have a fostering relationship with the youth in Riverside made me feel like I was back home. So on top of like making an extra little money, it made me deal with my homesickness a bit as well. So I really agree with getting involved with work study is a great opportunity.
Great. And Lila, you're up next.
Yeah, so for me, joining a sorority really helped me find my home away from home. So as a freshman, I didn't really know anybody at my college. My friends from high school went to different colleges. So to make friends, I decided to join a sorority. And being in my sorority was honestly one of the greatest experiences throughout my whole time in college. So in that first year, it really helped me make friends that I could go to the dining hall with, and I just had like such a huge support group, so many women in my chapter, and it really helped me feel less homesick and less lonely in Riverside. And it helped me make friends, lots and lots of friends, all my best friends. And even now, it helped me make so many connections. Sisters always recommending other sisters for jobs, and having sisters tell me which professors were easy, what classes to take, and all that. So I really enjoyed being a part of Greek life. And if you're open to it, I highly recommend it.
That's great. Thank you. Wow, we hit on almost all of these. There was one question that came in about the work study, and it may have been answered already, but just to be sure, work study as I think was mentioned, comes in as part of your financial aid package for some people, and so it's an amount of money that you can get by working. You take a job and you work, and then some of that money comes off of your tuition bill. But even if you don't get work study, I think our recommendation is there's still value in working on campus, so that you're able to meet people and gain some familiarity with the campus and just make it feel more like home. So it's not just a place. Here's what we don't want. We don't want anyone on this call to get into school next year and all they do is go to class and drive home, right? We want you to feel like the campus is really your home, not where you're living right now necessarily. And so part of that is trying to find all the ways that you can connect to school. And working is part of that. Not the only part of it, but part of it. If anybody has questions following up on that or anything else someone mentioned, throw it in the Q&A. We see questions coming in. We're going to get to them, but we're going to sort of run through a few more ideas first. But we are monitoring that and we will come back, promise. All right. The next big one is sort of related. All of these are pretty related, but the next one is finding that community of support. The adjustment to college is tough. Someone mentioned in the Q&A about the whether the first couple of years are difficult. And I think part of what makes that difficult is that it really is an adjustment. You are all living at home with your families and in one location, and you're used to the way school is. College is different. It's just going to be different. And so there's going to be an adjustment to that. And some of that's going to be easy and some of it is going to be hard for some people. But the big thing is to find people who can be your community of support, right? Those people who you can rely on. And we've got five groups of people that we mention here. One of them is the academic support. Now, this is definitely professors, right? Being willing to ask professors for help, but it's also things like study groups with some of your friends and going to office hours and going to the writing center and the tutoring center, all these things that help you academically. Because sometimes it is a big academic transition from high school to college, and some classes might be difficult for you. Another one is finding peer mentors. These might be students who are a year or 2 or 3 ahead of you, and they already know the campus and they know the people and they can sort of make you feel comfortable. Someone you can ask questions to. Most of your friends are likely to be freshmen like you next year, and that's great, but they don't know the campus either. So having a peer mentor gives you somebody to ask questions to, which is great. Another one is an adult advisor. This might be someone at your campus who's assigned to you or you find who might be able to really give you some good advice about how to navigate the university and your classes. Another one is a social support network. These could be student organization, cultural centers, religious organizations, something on campus to give you some social connection. And the final one that's really important is your family. You need your family support as well. And so thinking about who in your family can help you when you need someone to talk to. It might be a parent, but it isn't necessarily. Maybe it's a cousin who's a couple years ahead of you in college and you can turn to for help because they've already been through this. Or maybe it's an uncle who's been through it and knows a little bit about it. Or maybe it is your family. Maybe it is one of your parents who you know that when you need something, you can talk to them. It's about finding those people. Okay, so with all of that, I will turn it over first to Chantel. Let us know what you found in terms of this community of support.
Yeah, so one of the biggest community of supports to me, and Laura and Cindy kind of touched on this already too, is that I had a peer mentor. And for both of my first years, I signed up for a cultural mentor. And even if you don't have like a cultural center, you can always get a first year mentor. And like Carlos said, these are upperclassmen who have already gone through these motions, who know what general education classes are the best or what teachers are the best. So it was really helpful to me in having someone who went through a similar cultural experience as me, but also having someone who would tell me what classes were hard, or what dining halls are the best. Just like even if you don't get academic tips, it's just as beneficial to get campus tips or tips on integrating into college life. And the other community of support is supplemental instruction. So for people who are looking to major in science, this is one of your most useful resources. So to be completely transparent, during my first 2 years of college, I failed a couple of my science tests, and that's when I realized that I really needed to seek some tutoring services or additional help. And going to supplemental instruction, which is basically like a tutoring session led by an upperclassman who performed well in the class, was very valuable because they had tips and worksheets on helping you study for tests and like develop studying habits to perform well in the class. And also going to TA office hours because teaching assistants can be less intimidating than professors.
That's great, Chantel. Sounds like it's not the failing the test, but it's what you did afterwards that's important, right? To actually finding the help and making sure that you were able to continue. Great. Laura, how about for you?
Yeah, something that really helped me find my community of support was through an adult advisor. So I really did struggle my first year with academically, especially with my English class. I always knew that I struggled in that subject. And so really using your school's like supplemental instruction is really beneficial, and it really helps you connect with students that are a year or two older than you. And it really helps academically because they get to help you out. Like Chantal mentioned, they did good, they performed well in their class, so that's why they're there to help. So definitely seeking out that help that's there for you, and it's free, and they really help you, especially if you know that you struggle in a specific subject. It's really great because they provide you with feedback, and it's really no judgment. I think one of the big things is we're scared, as freshmen, but I think finding my community support was definitely through adult advising.
Fantastic. Thanks. How about for you, Lila? Lila, are you there? Okay, let's go.
Sorry, my internet connection is bad. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes, you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So for me, I was involved in research labs, and that helped me find both academic support as well as adult mentors on campus. So I was a psychology major, and I was in 2 psychology labs. So in these labs, I was able to meet a lot of other psychology majors, and then we would all sit together in class. We would all help each other study for exams and other things like that. And then also there are graduate students in these labs. So a lot of them became sort of mentors to me. They would share what their experience in college and grad school was like, and they would offer post-grad advice to us. They also wrote me letters of recommendation when I was looking for a job. And now that I'm graduated, I still keep in touch with them. And being a first generation college student, it was nice to have adults that I felt comfortable to asking questions and who I knew would help me and give me right advice.
Good, thank you. And Cindy, how about you?
Yeah, so I would say that maintaining my relationship with my family was key during my freshman transition, and I feel like it's for two reasons because I was very severely homesick, and also because my parents were not very supportive of my decision to leave at first. So I was 17 when I left for college, and I was gonna leave. UCLA is like a 6-hour drive away from my hometown, so my parents that was like very horrible, and so because I was also homesick, I also got into the habit of calling them almost every day at the beginning, and so that helped me, adapt to my new environment, and I feel like it helped me get past the first like emotional barrier and struggle that I felt during my first weeks as a freshman. And after that, I started to get into the rhythm of things, and like I got my own structure and my everyday routine down. And but it was important to keep, my family in tune with what I was doing. So it was important for me to reach out to my family, at least once a week and have them on the phone and give them weekly updates. And yeah, because at the end of the day, I feel like my family was my community.
That's great. Thank you all very much for sharing. All right, and I think, oh, and next up is a very short thing I just wanted to mention, which is the research is very clear that you are more likely to graduate, you're more likely to persist if you attend full-time. And this means that you take a full course of classes every year, graduate in 4 to 5 years. Sometimes it takes 6, but these days it's usually 5. And the reason is pretty simple. It gives you the ability to focus on your studies completely, rather than having to split your time between your studies and work or other things. And actually, it doubles your chance of persisting. So it's not as a minor thing, it's a major difference. And I believe, if I remember correctly, all 4 of our panelists went full-time in college. So no one can actually speak to the part-time piece. But I encourage, we want to make sure this is in here since the research is so clear. And so I encourage everyone. I know that some of you are going to have some pressure as you're going into next year about thinking about part-time, going to school part-time, either because your family maybe wants you to help with some work, or maybe you feel like it's important for you to work to help pay the bill, or any number of other things. And just consider that if the goal is graduation, full-time attendance makes a huge difference in your likelihood of graduating. Not to mention, so much more fun to be on campus and everything else that goes with that. All right, last but not least, and we just added this one because of where we are right now, we want to make sure to give you some hints on how to successfully transition virtually. We have no idea, no one has any idea what college is going to be like come next fall. It might be completely in person, it might be a hybrid, it might be completely virtual, or any number of other things that we haven't even thought of yet. But because there's a good chance that we might be at least partially online, we wanted to make sure that everyone here felt comfortable with that transition and being successful with online classes. And all 3 of our panelists, other than Chantel, finished their last year virtual. So they might have some suggestions for you on what worked for them. But a couple of things that immediately come up, as you see here, are to make sure you get all of your sort of on-campus resources, even virtually. Don't assume that because it's virtual, all those offices that do mental health services and counseling and tutoring and everything else don't exist. They're there. They're there virtual, and you got to take advantage of them. Make sure you find ways to disconnect from technology so you're not on the computer all day, every day, which is not healthy and not good. Personalize your study plan, especially if you're someone in a house with a lot of other people. Figure out a way that you can study that works for you and allow you to be as successful as possible. Create routines the way you would if you were on campus, which is a little tough to do in your home. Stay involved. Find ways to continue to be involved on campus with your friends and with other students, and get to know your professors, even if it's only virtual. So I'm going to stop there and see if Laura wants to sort of expand on her virtual experience from last year a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So my last quarter was when I graduated, it was virtual, and it was definitely a big shock to me because all these previous 4 years of my entire college career, it was going physically on campus. So definitely something I found to be a good tip is to develop a well-balanced routine, right? So this means knowing your balance between your schoolwork and your personal life. So sometimes I found myself like stressing out and like having maybe like kind of stressing moments, like breakdowns at 12 because I couldn't balance that time virtually. So I think something that would be very beneficial to know going in virtually would be to develop a well-balanced routine in which, you take care of yourself, take care of and acknowledge that you have needs, and just finding a well-balanced routine between academics and your personal life was what I found very helpful.
Fantastic. Thanks. Lila, how about for you?
Yes, very similar to what was already said, but also I tried to keep a similar routine to when I was in person when we went virtual. So I would always wake up 2 hours before my first morning class when we were going to school in person. So I still kept doing that when it went virtual, even though my computer was always just there. And I would always sit in front of my computer 10 minutes before my class because that's what I would do when we were in person. And I also tried to stay involved. I feel like I was even more involved when we were virtual because when we were in person, there were some barriers for me. Like I didn't have a car, so I couldn't sometimes go to events if I didn't have a ride. But since things are virtual, everything was right here. And there's still various opportunities to be involved when things are virtual. Most clubs are already meeting virtually via Zoom, and they do lots of fun things like Netflix party or studying over Zoom. So I would just recommend still be involved even if things are virtual.
Great. And how about for you, Cindy?
Yeah, I think for me, it was very easy to get overwhelmed by things moving virtually and the fact that we were still trying to get through the pandemic. And even right now, right, some of y'all are in school virtually and elections are around the corner. And then the stress of things being virtual, it's overwhelming for one person. So I do recommend taking technology breaks. So that's breaks from your phone, from the news, from social media, and just take a nap or take a walk outside. And I think just constantly reminding yourself that, you're only human and you deserve a break sometimes.
Great. Thank you all. So we have made it to the part of the presentation where we're going to answer your questions. And I'm glad we made it here in time because there are a lot of really good questions coming up. And so Connie, do you want to get us started with one of them?
Yes, of course. The first question says, was there any difficulties when it comes to money? That's the first question.
All right, so we're looking for any financial difficulties during the transition or during college, and how you handled that to make sure it didn't derail your college career. Anyone want to start?
I can answer that. So during my first year, I think my peer advisor was the person who helped me out the most when it came to my financial struggle. Not that she gave me money or anything, but she reminded me to reapply to FAFSA. I remember there was a time when the financial aid office basically put a hold on all of my financial aid until I turned in specific documentation. I think that's a very common situation that happens to a lot of students, but when it happens to you, you get so scared that you're not getting the money to cover your tuition. And so I reached out to her and she helped me pick out all the tax documents that I had to send into the finance office. And then within a week or two, I was cleared. So I think, my advice is, look out for that peer advisor because they do have experience academically as well as with the financial aspect as well.
I'm just going to add momentarily, and anyone else can as well, but I would say, in addition to a peer advisor, make great friends with your financial aid office at your campus once you get there. Those people's full-time job is to help you with financial aid. I'm not saying they always help you, but that's their job. So, get to know them, be a regular visitor, call them up, email them, do whatever you need to do to make sure that you have every one of your questions answered regularly and fully. And know that when you keep I don't want to use the word bugging, but that is it. When you bug them, you're more likely to get the stuff you need to be able to pay, and you deserve it. That's what they do. That's their job. There was someone just posted in the chat on the same sort of topic asking about starting your financial aid applications. And I would just mention that FAFSA and DREAM Act are already open. So if you haven't started those yet, it would be great for you this evening or tomorrow to look up FAFSA or DREAM Act, depending on which one you qualify for. Talk to your college advisor at school to get more help. And then you could get that filled out if you wanted to by this weekend, submitted. The earlier you get it submitted, the less of a stress it is. So definitely worth starting right away, and that way you don't have to worry about it later. All right, let's see what else.
Next question, what helped you choose your major and your classes?
Oh, that's a good one. Who wants to talk about choosing your major and your classes?
Yeah, I can talk about that. So I went in from high school to college as an undeclared major. So what really helped me choose my major was really exploring different classes. So looking around what my friends were taking or what my roommate was taking, and maybe like reading descriptions of the classes really did help me kind of see what was interesting to me. And sometimes not even registering for the classes, I would just go and sit in and maybe hear out a little part of the class. And so that really did help me kind of see that I had an interest in sociology and theory. So definitely what I recommend is, if you don't have certain, like, if you have, I know we all have like our preferences and maybe what we're interested in. So definitely start like looking at classes that kind of align with that will really help you see what you might want to major in.
Did anyone go in with one major and change at some point while they were in college? Wow, that's a really weird group. That's very unusual to have 4 people and everyone stays with the same major. But I would just add, that's another thing, is don't feel like you're locking yourself into whatever major you choose forever and ever. Pick what you want to study now, and then if a year from now you're not into it anymore, you can always change.
Oh, I just wanted to add one thing also. So I didn't change my major, but I changed my degree from like a Bachelor of Science to Bachelor of Arts, which you'll learn the difference when you're in college. But I changed it so that I would have less science classes to make more room for a minor, which is like a smaller program that's more specific to whatever interest you want. So mine was in nonprofits, and I just took more public policy classes that gave me a break from my science classes. So that can always be an option for you to pursue a different interest than your main academic interest.
Okay, the next question is, did you guys ever experience culture shock?
Oh, another good question.
I could take this one. So for my first year of college, I attended Colorado State University, and it was a predominantly white institution. And to me, it was a really, really big culture shock because I had attended a very diverse high school. And one of the ways to overcome the culture shock was becoming involved with my cultural center. And that would be one of my biggest tips too when you're experiencing culture shock, is to search for those cultural resources or centers where you can find a community where you're comfortable, or just find other people who look like you who may be going through the same experience, just to find that community of support, because culture shock can be a very common thing when adjusting to college.
I would just add that a lot of the things that were mentioned earlier probably would help if you are experiencing culture shock, right? Joining some of the cultural clubs and groups like Chantal mentioned, and making sure that you talk to advisors regularly. All of those things can help potentially with some of that.
For the other questions, the student mentioned that they're still undecided in which career to choose. Any advice?
I think this question kind of relates to the major question about being unsure on what major to choose. And I do think that taking your GEs in college is going to help out a lot, especially if you are undeclared. So your general education classes are sort of like your A through G courses that you take in high school. So once you get to college, you have to take classes in social philosophy, social sciences, and actual like hard science, like physical sciences. And that's how you get like a short intro on all these different career paths and majors that you could possibly choose from. And I think you get to kind of go off the list and decide, you know, do I have an interest for science? Do I have an interest for education? And that's how I personally figured out my interest for policy.
I would also add, don't feel the need to make decisions about the rest of your life today. I mean, we could probably spend the whole hour talking about how each of the five of us have changed our career goals along the course of our adult life so far. You know, your job right now is to find something you want to study next year and get into a college where you can study that and make it to day one. And then you'll figure out the career. The career will come. Most people don't actually do what they study anyway. And so there's, you know, plenty of time. Right now, just study what you absolutely love, and the rest will be figured out at some point.
Next question was, what do you mean by full-time? And I believe this question has to do with enrollment.
So when you sign up for college, you get to pick if you want to be a full-time student, meaning that basically you're taking, usually it's 4 classes a semester or 3 classes a quarter, and you would graduate probably in 4 or 5 years, sometimes 6, but hopefully 4 or 5 years. Another option is you can take classes, fewer classes at a time. It'll take you longer to graduate, but for some people it makes sense, either because they have other things that they have to do during the day, they can't commit to a full-time schedule, or it may be because they have, because of financial reasons. There's many reasons why someone might choose to go part-time. There's nothing wrong with going part-time in theory. It's just that usually what happens is that people end up working or taking care of family, doing other things that gets in the way of being a full-time student. And so the research says, try your best to be a full-time student. Full-time student only means 4 classes. You're all used to taking 6 classes anyway, right? So 4 classes should be a breeze. And then you can, you know, and hopefully graduate on time.
The next question we have here is, what should we learn or make a habit at a college? So again, that question is, what should I make sure to learn or make a habit at a college?
I think first and foremost, make a habit of going to class. In college, classes are not mandatory. No one is going to be asking, why aren't you here? So definitely try to go to class when it's time, even like if it's virtual. I know there's asynchronous, still just try to go. It just makes it
I also see that the second part of that question is what should I not make a habit of? And I always say this, do not pull all-nighters. I think once in a while it's like, okay, you know, you have to do it for finals, but it got to a point where I was pulling all-nighters like on a weekly basis, and it really does affect your health and your long-term sleeping schedule. So, you know, it's not healthy for you. And once you graduate college, you're gonna look back and be like, why did I even do that? It was not necessary. And just, I don't recommend it. Don't do it, please. No.
So the next question is, what is something you wish that you knew before entering your first year in college? What is something you wish you knew before entering your first year?
I think one of the biggest things that I wish I knew is that during college, you just have so much room to grow. And like as a senior, you're not expected to know everything. Like as a freshman, like I guess people have a tendency to make fun of freshmen, but freshman year is the time to like make mistakes or figure out, start figuring out what you really want or what you like, who you want to be. So you don't really have to know who you are going into college or already like I want to be a doctor, I want to be a lawyer. Like everything in college will change and you just have so much room for growth. And if you just allow yourself to grow, you'll be like a different person. Sorry, super cliche, but you'll be a different person by the time you graduate.
Next question is, what exactly is Greek life?
So Greek life is different organizations. I mentioned before there's various different types. There's social Greek life, there's academic Greek life, there's professional Greek life. What's available on your specific campus will vary. So I recommend going, once you know what school you're going to, looking to see what organizations are available on your campus. But to give you some insight, things you do in Greek life, you do a lot of community service, you do a lot of socializing with other Greek orgs, you get a lot of professional development opportunities to network, so many beneficial things. So again, I recommend just looking to see what organizations are on your campus.
So if you have to change your major midway, do you have to pay more since you will be taking more time at the college?
That's a really good question and probably something impossible to answer for us because there's so many things that go into that. Um, I knew people who were able to switch majors after 2 years and still graduate on time because they had taken all of their general education requirements and there was enough overlap and maybe they took a summer school class, they were still able to do it. I know people who changed majors 3 and 4 times. Some people just can't figure out what it was that they wanted to study. But my best advice, and anyone else can disagree with me if you think differently, but my best advice is you want to get out of college, definitely. And you also want to get out of college enjoying and learning a lot and thinking a lot. You don't want to be, if you're looking at the catalog of the classes for your major and nothing looks good to you, you're probably studying the wrong thing. And even if it takes you an extra semester or a year to graduate, it's probably worth it so that you really come to love learning and love what you know and be able to use those skills moving forward.
Sorry about that. I'm answering some of the questions in the chat. How do I improve my GPA? For example, do I to raise the GPA? They are from a 3.6 to a 3.0.
I can answer that. I think if you're a junior, a good way to raise your GPA a little faster than typically is by taking AP courses. AP courses do add more weight to your GPA. So instead of, I think, getting like, if you get an A in a class, your transcript is going to record that as like an A plus. So you get the extra points in. As well, I'm not sure if taking dual enrollment classes does any help to your GPA. I don't know if anyone else can add to that, but I know I also, as a junior, I took classes at my local community college, and that reflected really well on my GPA. So if your GPA your high school GPA is not that strong, you could also go to your local community college and take classes there, and that's going to reflect really well on your GPA. But at the end of the day, I feel like the GPA doesn't define your performance as a student. So if you do have other, things that you want to add, like if you have any other involvements or if you're involved in a sport or a club or you have a leadership opportunity, then that I think is going to reflect a lot more stronger on your college applications than just the GPA as a number.
Thank you. Next question is, the student has a hard time managing time properly. Do you have any tips on time management? The student is possible, it's possible while they're in college to have a part-time job.
Yes, I could answer that. I also had a lot of hard time managing my time during college. And something that I did was that I learned actually after my first year was I had to prioritize my task and like prioritize, like put my priorities, set my priorities straight, you know? So sometimes I know if I had a test coming up next week or if I had something important due, then I needed to focus on that and maybe hanging out with my friends or going to a party or going to a club or something, an event. I knew that maybe that can wait because there'll definitely probably be other ones that we can go to, and we have 4 whole years to enjoy of that. So I think really for me it was a way that I managed my time effectively was prioritizing and setting my priorities straight. And I think it is very it's kind of, some students think it's not you're not able to like do a job during college, but I think it is, especially if you find like a job that's on campus or near your, that know that you're a student. They're really lenient towards your schedule, you know. So something that I mentioned before was I had work study, and that really let me be very flexible with my schedule, and the minimum work hours were like 12 hours. So I think definitely you are able to have a part-time job.